What's up, all you wonderful people? Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Revenge on the cheating wife, now ex, as well as the karma that came afterwards. So I am in the army, and I was married. I was approaching my first deployment to Iraq. It was very stressful, and it had my wife wanting me to find a way to stay and not deploy. Obvious things any wife would try to talk about. Anyways, so we have no kids, but both want them. So we talk about getting out of debt while I'm gone. She talks to her best friend back home in another state, where we are both from. Her friend agrees to let her move in and charge a modest $300 in rent so that we can get out of debt and start a family when I get back. A plan I was actually very pleased with. I deploy, and she is there crying her eyes out, saying she will miss me and loves me, and we will start a family when we get back. Fast forward 2 months. She starts acting distant, not wanting to talk much on our scheduled calls or text back 1 or 2 word answers. We've been together 6 years. She is never at a loss for words. Anyway, one day she says I need some space. She asks someone who is 10,000 miles away for space. I say why, and she says she just needs space. She wants to find herself. So I remember back when we lived at home, she had a guy who was always being borderline inappropriate. I'm not a very jealous person, and I trust her. So I start seeing said guy in basically all her pictures she posts with a group. Every time he is in the picture, everyone else changes, but never him. So for the first time, I'm very jealous and uneasy about everything. So I clone her phone, so I receive every text she receives as well as every text she sends. I'll never forget the first text I saw after cloning her phone. "Hey babe, I'll see you after work. Want me to save you any of my leftovers?" From her to him. It destroyed me. I lost 35 pounds in a week. I didn't eat or sleep. I stared at the phone watching every conversation, watching them talk about trying to have a baby. It was literally everything a married person fears. I ask her if she is seeing someone, and she says no, she isn't. She's taking care of herself, and she loves me, blah blah. I don't say anything about receiving her texts for 2 months. Over this time, she finally admits cheating and that he is so much better than me at sex, treating her right, and he does what she wants. During this time, she pays our debt off, gets tattoos with him, matching I love you tattoos, goes to shows with him, buying clothes, etc., with the money I'm making. So this is where revenge starts. I put a freeze on the account for a month in that time. I change every password to every account to things she won't guess. Army jargon, slang terms. I block her on Facebook and my phone so she has no way to contact me. She lost her car to repo a few months later, got kicked out of her place, had to sell her prized shoes and purses just to stay alive. I then find out she got a job at her old restaurant. So I post all the text conversations I have with her and the guy talking about having babies that have timestamps on it, as well as post conversations we had with the matching timestamps showing all of our friends what she has done. I then have friends call and complain at her job constantly on both he and her. They work at a restaurant, so I also have friends dine and dash. They both get fired. So she tries to call my command and tell them that I am abandoning her and she can't provide for herself. My commander knows what is going on. He does nothing because he had something similar happen. Then about a month before I come back, she calls me from another number to tell me she is pregnant with his kid. Mind you, I'm still gone, so we cannot get divorced yet. She moved away with him, 10 hours from me. April 24th, 2018. She calls me 5 months pregnant, crying uncontrollably, asking me where she should go. Apparently, they have a giant blow-up fight. She tells him she is leaving. She says she doesn't know where to go, and I simply say, "Sorry, not my problem anymore." Fast forward to January of this year. She calls me from a mutual friend's phone. "He hit me. I don't know what to do." "Maybe you don't cheat on your husband when he is deployed for some guy who talks a big game." "Well, I guess you are happy about this?" "No, but I'm glad I'm not the bad guy in this story." And then the next month. "He is cheating on me with 2 girls. I'm sorry. I regret everything I did. I effed it all up." "Yeah, you did." All in all, this woman destroyed my life, put me into a deep depression I'm still dealing with. But I do feel a little better having proof that I wasn't the problem. To think if this happened even 10 or 5 years ago, I would have come back to an empty bank account, an empty house, as well as seeing my then wife pregnant with another man's baby. She actually hit me up yesterday to ask for some money to help cover rent. Let's get a couple quick responses from the community before we move on to the next story. Me Room 16 says, "Someone who prizes shoes and purses when they are trying to save to start a family is immature at best, shallow at worst. You may not have realized what kind of person she really is, but she showed you. You dodged a bullet, buddy. My wish for you is next time you'll find a woman with some substance who already learned life lessons. The OP's response: yeah, definitely. She had 3 purses that were $1,000 apiece, and multiple shoes that were $300 plus. But yet, I was a bad husband. Oh, and just for more context, I bought a PS4. I already had an Xbox. She lost her crap, explaining it was a waste of money. Yeah, totally waste, like those purses you have that do so much. Caffeine-Fueled Life says, dude, you dodged a bullet. My ex-husband, he cheated, was a Marine. But when we were together, he went on a 7-month deployment to Okinawa. One of the guys he was deployed with came back to an empty, trashed apartment. Cat piss and crap everywhere. Pot roaches, used condoms, another man's camis. And his wife was 4 months pregnant. His bank account was empty and he was on the hook for several months' worth of unpaid bills. The OP's reaction to that one: yeah, I have friends who I grew up with whose mom just left one day. Dad was deployed and mom dropped them off, 3 brothers, at the on-base daycare and never came back. The oldest was, I think, 7. The youngest was 2. How do people do that? Like, I couldn't imagine doing that to anyone, let alone my children. Next story. Cheat on me with my student, steal from me and then slander my reputation. Get ready to lose your job, future, and face jail time. Preface. So, I was madly in love with my ex-girlfriend, together for 4 years. She is quite attractive and very affectionate. She thrived on attention, to which I catered to the best of my abilities. I fondly called her Winter, and she had a cheesy name for me as well, which I choose not to divulge. Overall, I was happy. I earned significantly more than her, apart from the fact that my grandparents left me a hefty amount of money. Although she lived in her own apartment, we live in a very conservative country. Live-in relationships are a big taboo. Most of the stuff in it was mine. She drove my car, used my laptop, and so on. I have a crappy 32-inch LCD TV, while she bought a 60-inch Bravia and defaulted on payments, after which I had to pay for it. This was not an isolated incident either, because she had a lot of things I was paying for. I admit that I was a doormat, in blissful ignorance of all the red flags. So, one day, I was at her place and I used her laptop to check my email. I couldn't remember her Wi-Fi password. Her Gmail account opened up, and as I went to sign out, a Hangouts notification popped up which said, God knows I love your body. 7. Same park. Night at my place. Wear the dress, my name, bought you, so I can tear it apart. There were no other texts on that chat head. She probably deleted it. It was my student, my barely 18-year-old, first-year student, whom we'll call Wuss. I can't describe how I felt at the moment. It was a wild cocktail of emotions. I slammed her laptop and stormed out of her place, but I was foolish enough to not take any evidence. But they were supposed to meet up the next day, and I could catch them red-handed. Next day, I go to the place where they were supposed to meet and catch them making out in my car. I knock on the window, ask for my keys, and tell her to never talk to me again. She was sobbing, apologizing, and so on. I asked Wuss to drop her home, and he just bolted like his tail was on fire. I can never forget the look on their faces, that sudden paleness and shocked expressions. Wuss also forgot his phone in my car. Meanwhile, I'm being bombarded with texts of her apologizing. I then block her. I left this detail out of my post I made on r/relationships, but I spent the next 2 days drinking myself to oblivion, and hung over me, left a lot of fuzzy details in the post. I tried calling my best friend, but he was away for a business trip, so I didn't disturb him. All I did for 2 whole days was drink, puke, sleep, eat, and repeat. 2 days later, when I came to my senses, I went through my bank statements, and then canceled our joint account. Well, she withdrew almost all of the money in it, out of which 3/4 was mine. I was still being bombarded with texts and calls, but sometimes during my drunken furor, I cracked my phone's screen, thus rendering it useless. So, I got my backup phone and see a barrage of notifications. As it turns out, she posted on Facebook that I had been cheating on her, that I was an emotionally manipulative, two-faced douchebag who sleeps with his students. We had a lot of mutual friends, most of who blocked me. Someone even created a WhatsApp group and they abused me and said horrible things. She even turned my sister against me. Our father left our mother for a woman half his age. Our mother got depressed and died after a few years. Thus, she was overtly sensitive about infidelity. But X was also horribly manipulative, and she pushed all the right buttons to make my sister hate me. X was hitting all the past wounds she knew about our father. She said things like, chip off the old block, and he's just like your father, and many more horrible made-up things. She got very depressed because of this, and also several of her friends were on my ex's side. This has probably put a permanent strain on our relationship. Word about ex's Facebook post spread like wildfire in the college. They pinned a shy, socially awkward girl as being my mistress and shamed that poor girl. To be honest, I have never even noticed her. And now, the revenge. Finally, the part everyone was waiting for. She effectively ruined my reputation and goodwill I had created in my community and among my peers. Put my job in jeopardy. She turned my only family, my sister, against me. I later show her the apology texts my ex sent me, and then she apologized to me because clearly I was the victim, not her. Several kind Redditors suggested I contact a lawyer, which I did. So the next day, when I went for work to take a few days off, I see Wuss and his father for me. Somehow, I resisted the urge to punch him. He apologized and told me that he'd do anything so as not to get him out of college. I asked him if he'd testify in my favor, and he obliged. I did tell him that I won't be able to save him, because that was out of my powers. He told me that he would still testify in my favor, and he sent me several screenshots of his chats with X, thus confirming that she was cheating on me and not the other way around. I pressed charges under IPC, Indian Penal Code, Section 499, defamation, 500 and 504, intentional insult with intent to provoke breach of the peace. The day of the hearing was frankly the best day of my life since the breakup. She said a lot of malignant things about me, was yelling a lot to the point that the judge had to scold her. Her lawyer did ask for an out-of-court settlement, but I politely declined because it was not only my life she had inevitably screwed over, it would have been a lot more cheaper and I've gotten some dough, but F her. This was quite a scandal, but since I have a tenure of 5 years, they can't fire me. I was transferred to another college instead. Same pay, same incentives, but I'll have to travel a bit more than I prefer. As for her, she is in knee-deep crap. She was a librarian. She's a library science major in the institution I worked for, and was fired as soon as I notified the authorities. The reason being, philandering with a student. This has also screwed up her chances at procuring a job in the future. She also faces jail time. As mentioned, under Section 500 and 504, which can extend up to imprisonment for over 2 years, a fine or both, and Indian jails, sheesh. She can post bail, however. Wuss has been expelled. The money she stole, that would be going to her lawyer. My best friend went to her apartment, got my stuff back for me, which included a futon, a refrigerator, an air conditioner, a laptop, and several expensive electronics, and some jewelry. She would keep the TV though, because it is in her name. She'd probably have to sell it, because lawyers ain't cheap, and she has no job and no savings. This is in India, and as you might have guessed, people are very, very conservative here. At some point, she will have to reach out to her parents, who still think she is a virgin. Alright, comments, let's see them. RWBY Fan 01. I hate people who are like that. They cheat, or at least act like they are cheating, on you, significant other. Message other, flirty, lovey, etc. sort of messages, people, and not allow you to even know. Lie about you. Get people to hate you. Slander you on social media or in public, etc. It sounds like she got what was coming to her. Good on you for having a court thing go very well. I had my ex slander me in front of my friends by telling them I was lying about a death threat that he admitted he knew nothing about, and kept calling me out to be a liar, so I told him to shut up and stop, then went home and got an intervention order against me, which was biased as the date got changed without me being notified. So yeah, I can definitely sympathize with what you went through to some extent. What I never understand is how people think they can slander people and get away with it, no matter how they do so. There would be witnesses, screenshots of messages, or even videos depending on if they were doing such in public areas. They just get caught out for lies, so why is it worth it? After honeymoon, wanted to applaud the OP. Wow, great job! As a teacher, I know how precious our reputations are, and the fact that she accused you of exactly what she did is ironic and horrible. Glad everything worked out. Sipfire added on. People like this tend to project onto their partners a lot. It helps them feel better about what they are doing and justify their actions internally while manipulating their victim to be a doormat. Echo Dark closes us out. I hate that he still had to move to another university though. I hate when victims get punished.